So I'm gonna introduce our second special guest, which is Dr. Vijaya Kumar. Okay, Dr. Vijaya Kumar is an assistant professor in English at B.S. Abdurrahman Crescent Institute of Science and Technology. He holds a master in English and in applied linguistics. Dr. Vijaya Kumar has won many awards, which is Springer Best Paper Presentation Awards for the research paper titled Treating ADHD Using Blended Pedagogies at the International Conference on Learning and Teaching at Coimbatore on 3rd November 2018. Hands to you, Dr. Vijaya Kumar. Welcome, Dr. Vijaya.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Welcome.
Yeah. So I'd just like to extend a special thanks to Dr. Joyson for inviting me, and just like to welcome everyone to this 3-day international virtual workshop on research methodology. The very fact that you are here on a late Friday evening demonstrates the very fact, the commitment that you have for professional excellence and your extraordinary passion for being here on an late evening. So, to pick up the threads of discussion from the previous speaker, who focused extensively, although I joined at the fag end of the talk, was very much on a review of literature. So apparently my plan was to help you understand how to write a systematic review or a meta-analytic review or a scooping review. So before I do that, I would just like to talk from the editor's perspective and the peer reviewer's perspective. So I'd just like to make a presentation for say about 20 to 25 minutes, and anything related to research, I would like to take questions from the research scholars pertaining to design, or I hope that this is predominantly a multidisciplinary audience. May I know the audience, type of audience who are here, the domains? Are they exclusively from language and literature or different domains, Joyson?
Sir, I'm from computer science and IT domain, computer science domain.
Okay, computer science IT. So, all right. So, I would like to, yes, thank you so much. So, just because.
Language and literature also, sir.
Oh, literature also. All right.
Management, sir.
Management.
I'm also from literature, sir.
Okay, fine. In that case, what I would perhaps do is, just being a peer reviewer for many journals, I would actually spend a lot of time to answer your queries, whatever you have, related to design, related to application of theory, related to writing a research paper or whatever. You know, in every top journals, let me first 10 minutes focus on, because I don't have a PowerPoint, I would just like to interact with you. From a peer reviewer's perspective, I know a lot of challenges that research scholars are going through whenever it comes to publication, in publishing a journal article in a good journal, especially Scopus indexed or Web of Science. This is a challenge that every research scholar, regardless of the university, come under. So I would just like to focus on the expectations from a reviewer and place my talk on a very general ambit. See, whether you are a student of literature or a student of computer science or management, if you write to a Web of Science journal, what is expected? Let me focus on that for 10 minutes, and then let me move on to systematic review. So I'll talk 15 minutes each very quickly on these two areas, and then take any kind of questions that you have on research, and I'll be glad to answer your questions. So in this way, we'll make it interactive. The first part, especially when we write a paper to a journal, many researchers do have the habit of writing a paper and then submitting it to a journal. But fundamentally, what you need to do is, first of all, you have to identify your target journal and decide that this is the journal I want to communicate. And after that, if you write your paper in alignment with the requirements of the journal, then your chances of publication is quite optimal. But many researchers do the other way. They kind of write an article and then try to communicate to a journal. I think that is the number one mistake that research scholars do. Secondly, as a reviewer, as I've reviewed many papers for Web of Science, I find that there are some gray areas and the papers are rejected because of the following reasons that I wish to articulate. I wish to articulate those reasons why we actually reject papers or why we recommend the editors to reject these papers. First of all, we look at the target journal. The target journal clearly gives in the home page, these are the requirements. 8,000 words are required. If you come across articles which does not meet up with the word limit, it's definitely an instant rejection. Or if an article, of course, if it is 8,000, it will not be specifically 8,000. It can be a little less, 100 words less, 100 words more. So this is the first reason why we reject papers. Like if the number of pages are below the threshold limit. Secondly, is there a proper structure? If you see the structure of an international journal, you have this structure called the IMRAD structure, what you call the IMRAD structure. I will talk about the framework for literature students a little later, but the IMRAD structure refers to, as a researcher, starting with I stands for introduction, and then M stands for proper methodology, and R stands for results, A stands for analysis, and D for discussion. Well, are all these segments available in a research paper? So this is the second reason, which we call as the structure of a paper. Now, if the candidate is not catered to the structure of the target journal, definitely as peer reviewers, we don't recommend the journal to be published. I will come to that a little later. Many cases we submit reviews on minor corrections, major corrections. When do we do that? I'll talk about that. Okay. And in between, it's not that you should ask me questions only at the end. If you have any queries, it can be, you can just make a note of it and shoot down your questions. So the first reason is for the word limit. And the second reason that a paper is rejected is because of the fact that a clear framework is not followed by the researcher. But naturally, people feel that they reject a paper because of the language. Those are only the tertiary reasons, not the primary reasons. So number one, the word limit. Number two, whether the researcher is stuck to the IMRAD format. Now, let me give you a map and focus on each aspect of a research paper and talk to you about the expectations in each segment. Okay, let's say I'm going to talk about 6 segments or 7 segments. What are the segments of a research paper and what is expected in each segment is what I'm going to talk about. Let's say you communicate a research paper. Okay, first of all, some journals ask you for a structured abstract and some journals ask you for an abstract. Your abstract should have 5 elements in it. The first element of an abstract is you have to ensure that there is a proper background and the need for why you are doing that particular study. That is the basic objective. So you directly hit the bullseye. You directly come to the point and start giving the reason and the objective as to why you are writing a paper. So it's like a checklist. Yes, is this point there? Has the research scholar mentioned the research objective in his or her abstract. Point number one. Point number two, after you move on from giving an introduction, you just give a little bit of background about your study, about what other researchers have done, very slightly. I mean, so that is the second point. And the third point is, have you focused on, if it is a student of literature, have you mentioned the theory that you are going to apply and the implications of the theory or the rationale as to why you are applying that particular theory. And then in the abstract, you mention the analysis, one or two lines about the analysis, and then about a conclusion. So the abstract is like a teaser of a movie. Suppose a movie is directed, the movie runs for 3 hours, but the teaser will give you some important cameos or interesting glimpses or gleanings from the movie. So your abstract should create a curiosity and an interest. Okay, so this is how you write an abstract. But my talk today is, if you look at abstract as a capsule, your research paper is an extension of your abstract. So you write your research paper and then write the abstract. So the abstract is ready now. So let me now walk you through. Now you're going to start writing a research paper. I'm sure that many of you who are here may be in different stages of your research. Some of you would have just begun your research. Some of you would be on the verge of completion. Some of you would be midway. Regardless of what you do, it is always great to write a paper after doing a systematic review. Okay, I would just like to show you one thing. See, we all write papers for journals, but only some of the papers are cited. Citations. When nobody cites your paper, I don't think you should write a paper. When you write a paper, just because you have to clear the university requirement and because you can submit your work only after completing a paper, that's not the way to look at research. Definitely not. So the first quality of a researcher before he writes the research paper is to be thorough with his literature. And that is what I'm going to focus on today. And I'm going to focus on a few frameworks which are followed in the science domain. There is a particular framework for the social sciences domain. There is a framework for the literature domain. And this is called as systematic review. And there is one more review framework called as the scooping review framework. And there is one more framework called as a meta-analytic framework, which means a scholar, when he sits to write any particular research paper, he should be thorough with the review of literature. So what is the framework? I am going to share my document. I mean, it's not a PowerPoint slide, a document. And I'm going to tell you certain aspects. Please follow. How many of you are aware that a literature review has an inclusion criteria and an exclusion criteria? I mean, this is the first thing we see as reviewers, especially when you're writing for a top-notch journal. Is there anybody here who knows something about the inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria when you write a review paper? Let me share my slide to you and walk you through on a journey of my presentation. Now, this is the framework I wish to share with you. Okay, I mean, searching literature, that's how to do a systematic review. Okay, now, see, look, there is a particular graph here. This is for all domains. Okay, now, first of all, when you sit for writing a research paper, the first thing you need to do is you need to collect your data. So, data collection is the first step. Without data collection, you actually don't write your paper, right? So that is data collection. Now, the first, if you look at here, there are two important aspects in that. Let me come and just put it in a text box and chat with you about these aspects. Now I'll stop sharing and maybe better have an interaction. See, first thing is you collect all your data. Let us say that you are going to write a research paper and you should have a benchmark of at least 50 papers which are related to your work for the previous studies, or at least 15 papers, top-notch papers. Criteria A. Criteria B, where you choose the paper matters, right? If you take papers from conference proceedings, it does not have value. So you need to take papers from top journals in your field. So my question is, every researcher who is attending this session, if I were to ask you a question, do you know what are the top journals in your field? Can you name those top five journals in your field? It means you are a very avid researcher. It means that you have a lot of research acumen. So first thing is, please go and identify, if you have not, what are the top journals in your field. Okay, thank you. Some are aware of the journals in their field. Elsevier is a database. Elsevier is a big database. Web of Science is a database. But from that database, Elsevier may have a lot of journals. Material science, blended learning, computers and education. It may have an artificial intelligence. It may have a machine learning. It may have some papers on language and literature. It may have journals on linguistics. So Elsevier is a database. And Taylor and Francis again is a database. So these are very good databases. I'm quite happy that researchers are referring to articles from Elsevier and Taylor and Francis. But let me tell you one important thing. Whenever you communicate a journal to a top journal, the first thing we see is the references. From where has the researcher cited his references? Okay, Journal of Cybersecurity, fine. So where has he cited the references? If your references are from top journals in your field, then you have collected the data properly. Please understand, this is a very important point. See, to write, whenever you make a research or write something, it is always based on previous works. You always stand on the shoulders of giants to have a better view of the world, right? You don't build a knowledge from the scratch. You build a knowledge based on existing literature, based on what people have done earlier. Perhaps you may add your own permutations and combinations. You may add your new ideas to it. But fundamentally, you are building only from previous knowledge. Have you collected that knowledge properly? A. B. Have you collected the knowledge from top journals? Why top journals? Because top journals, it goes through a rigorous review and there is bound to be quality. So, for example, like databases like Web of Science, Taylor and Francis, Routledge, Elsevier, wherever you go, you can just take the papers. But some papers you can't download. There is a particular website for you to take any paper. Let me show you that. I'll share the screen. Suppose, any questions? Anybody ask something?
No, sir, I was just telling the answer of your question. That is, Sci-Hub is one of the website through which we
One
can
of the
download.
websites, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Thank you so much. Ski Hub. And secondly, thank you for that. You can try that website, Ski Hub, and take your papers. Secondly, some papers I don't find even in Ski Hub. I know it's quite unethical, but I have tried this. If you are in ResearchGate or academia, these two are just like Facebooks for the researchers. ResearchGate especially. ResearchGate and academia, there you search any paper, it is available. But if you want the full paper, if you find out the author and send a request to him, believe me, 9 out of 10 times you would get a response. Because if a research scholar is asking the paper with an interest, sir, may I use your work because I want to use it for your research. If you write, everybody will be willing to share. So papers which you don't find in Ski Hub, you can find the authors in ResearchGate and send a personal requisition to them. So they will send your papers. So my point today is have the right data. Okay, A. B, this is called as inclusion criteria. What am I going to include? I may choose 50 papers, but all the 50 may not be exactly related to my work. I may reject some papers. So what is your inclusion criteria? For me, inclusion criteria is always top journals like Taylor and Francis, like, as you said, Elsevier or Routledge, Web of Science journals, Wiley journals. These are top-notch journals, and that is my inclusion criteria. I usually exclude, I don't include those papers at all. Conference papers, web references, Wikipedia sources, and some, crap journals where it is being published without any review. Never ever cite, even citations are wrong in the journal. People will pull some information and put it there without proper citation. If you cite from those journals, your article will not see daylight, especially in quality journals. So that is the second point I wish to make today. The second point, always pick your review papers, review or to build your ideas from top journals, systematic review. Third point, I'll just make a few points and then open my floor for questions, more questions related to that. See, the third point is after choosing inclusion and exclusion criteria, there is something called a threshold limit. See, any top journal, they expect at least 30 references. This is one benchmark to find out if the paper has quality. If you download a particular paper in a good journal, sometimes there will be even 50 references or 40 references. PhD work is also like that. Some PhD scholars ask, how many citations, how many references should I include in my work? So the number of references that you should include and shows the quality of your work. So if it is a paper, research paper, definitely there should be at least 25 to 30. So this is the third parameter about the number of references you need to include. Well, I couldn't, there is a particular question. I couldn't hear two website names to download. Okay, we will have it as a Q&A session at last. Maybe we'll just discuss about that. So I essentially focus on data collection. And maybe I know that, half an hour is too long time. I mean, too trivial a time to discuss about a lot of nitty-gritties related to research papers. So this is only about data collection. But about the choice of your methodology, about your choice of theory, if you have any questions, you can ask me now. I'll stop with this data collection because I see that some of you are leaving. Probably that will give me an opportunity to take in questions from people who are really interested, and no matter what your questions are related to research, I'll be glad to answer. So I'll keep my talk very short, choose the right data, collect the right data, choose the right journals for data collection, and then start your work. This is a point I wish to make about systematic review. So, but I would now take any questions that you have related to your research. Thank you. Any questions? Not necessarily about my talk, but about writing a journal article about anything. Yes,
Sir,
Kim,
you
what?
said about we should cite those papers only which are from the top journals. We
Yeah.
should consider those papers only, na? For
Yeah.
example, if I am searching in my domain and in top 5 journals or 5 to 10 journals, I am getting only that is also the recent topic in present. So at
Okay.
present, we are not having so much of literature for that particular topic. So
Okay.
at that time, what should we do?
That's a very good question, ma'am. If you look at top 5 journals, if you say, I will show you, I'll give you a small demo now. See, what is the area that you are working on?
Sir, I am working on the Internet of Things.
Okay,
Security.
IoT, yeah, security, IoT. When you look
Yeah.
at IoT, and if you just go to Web of Science, have you ever made a Web of Science search, ma'am? I will
Yes,
just
sir.
share my screen. There are, say, about 400 to 500 top journals. And when I say top journals, I exclusively mean only from the Web of Science. And there
Okay.
are Elsevier journals as well. So don't stick with 5 journals. Look
Yeah,
at
yeah, that's right. So,
looked
but
at. Yeah.
what I mean to say, for example, if I am talking about the federated learning is in today's time, federated learning is one of the hot topic in IoT. So,
Okay.
if right now I am making a search on this particular topic and I am getting only few papers on this topic and in a particular domain. For example, if I am talking about the autonomous vehicles,
Yeah.
so in autonomous vehicles, I am only getting the 10 to 12 results for this.
Yes.
So what to
Okay.
do at that time and how should I approach if I want to write something, write up a paper on the basis of this much only study. So how should I support my work?
Wonderful. That's an excellent question with so much of depth. See, usually what we do tell scholars who have this problem is, when you are working on a very narrow field, it's a clear indication that you are not really reinventing the wheel. It is a clear indication that there is a dearth of research in that area. It's a clear indication that there is a paucity of research. And that can be clearly articulated in your research paper, even at the abstract, saying that it is a niche field. Being a niche field, the number of research is not so maximal. There are only a few papers. However, you can do one thing. There could be related sub areas. If you don't find papers on your niche, you could find related sub areas where you can focus on those areas, but write a rationale on one page paragraph on research gap. Highlight the gap stating that there are no previous studies on this particular area. And this is what life science or people who do groundbreaking research in the scientific domain do. They do something for the first time. See, suppose they are doing something which is groundbreaking research for the first time, they don't find any literature previously. So what they do is so for example, a researcher is working on a new type of cancer, and that type of cancer is found in a particular community. Then he does not find any research paper on that type of cancer. So he just goes to talk about other similar kinds of cancer and papers related to that. So in the same way, you could work on similar fields to show that you have exhaustive review, and then finally prove that your area is very niche, that clear papers in this area are only few and far between. Have I answered your query, ma'am?
Yes, sir, got it. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Are there any more questions? Anything not related to my talk? Any pertinent question related to research, any domain, regardless of the domain, regardless of the topic, I'll be glad to answer. Yes, if there are no questions, you may even text your questions if you have. Maybe if you don't have any questions, then I leave it to the organizers. I said any question I'll be willing to answer, regardless of the stage you are in.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please, please.
Sir, in the beginning, you told that there are, while taking about the systematic, inclusive and exclusive criteria about
Yeah.
the systematic review, you
Yeah.
told there is a part in scientific science, some in social science, and in other fields also you told.
Yeah.
And whatever you said something, right? Rejection, segment of research
Okay,
paper, systematic review. This
Yeah.
is enough for social science because I am from economics background. Is this
Okay.
okay for
Oh, yeah, that's a
social science
very
also?
excellent question. Excellent question. See, if you talk about systematic reviews, there are many frameworks. If you want, you can go on Google and see a particular framework called the PRISMA framework. PRISMA. I'm sure the scientific domain may know that. There is a particular framework called the PICO, PICO framework, PICO framework. Now, you are from social sciences background. I will show you that very quickly just because you asked this question. Just a minute, I'll share and show you one particular thing. This is a terrific question. Because I didn't have time to cover up, I just thought I should have a casual talk with you. Okay, I have a lot of points, but I don't see. If you are doing on an economics, I'm sure that you will have a population for your study, right, man? You will have a sample size, right?
Sir.
Yeah, this PICO framework will be usable for your study. For example, what are the characteristics of your population? What is the survey? It is good for even the scientific domain. If somebody is going to study the different kinds of diseases, and then what is your intervention? Or in economics, what is your new theory? Your theory is called the intervention in systematic review. And then comparison. Suppose you do a survey, you will collect all the data and cross compare the data, and finally you will write an outcome for the data. So if you Google it, you will come across this PICO framework, and there is one more framework, though not suitable for economics. This is called the Prisma guidelines. If you search for the Prisma guidelines when you make a systematic review, you will find that there are complete what do you call flow chart. You can download the flow chart. You can use the flow chart even in your research paper. But I believe, being an economic background, this PICO framework will be suitable for you to write a systematic review. Okay, and because one more thing I wanted to say is, please understand, when you write a full-length research article, you don't get any citations. But when you write a systematic review, just go and make search in Google Scholar. Review papers will have minimum, even papers which are published 6 months before will have 50 citations. So one way to increase your citation index, one way to improve your H index and show that you are a good researcher is to at least publish one review paper in your life. To answer that particular question, definitely yes, Prisma framework is there, PICO framework is there, and I believe that PICO framework is will be useful for the economic fraternity. Thank you, ma'am, for that question. Have I answered that question?
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Any more questions on anything related to research, any domains, any topic related to application of theory, anything?
Sir, and currently I'm doing my PhD, sir.
Okay.
Shall I use this pickup framework in my PhD itself also?
Yes, of course you can, especially when you write the review of literature. Of course, you can consult your guide, but if you just Google on, because this is the simplest thing you can do without anybody's guidance, how to write a systematic review in economics. Or if you can look at sample review papers in your field, just go to Scholar and type in the keywords. What is your topic, by the way? Exact topic?
Uh, Awareness about health insurance in unorganized sector.
Okay, just search if there are systematic reviews on health insurance. Definitely there should be systematic reviews. There could be meta-analytic reviews. There could be scooping reviews. Don't simplest thing for a research scholar is download one paper. Okay, download one paper from a top journal, especially from Google Scholar. See what is the framework used there. Use a similar framework in your thesis, because you're not copying the thesis, you're only using the framework. And this is the simplest thing that you could do. And it is very effective also. Of course, you can. This is not counted as plagiarism. Definitely not. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, sir.
I'll take only one more question and then we'll wind up, because I think, yeah. Are there any questions or can we wind up?
Sir, you told theoretical inclusion, right, sir?
Yeah.
Sir, in economics, we are having lot of theories. And what you're talking about theory?
Theory. Okay, ma'am. Just give me a second. My battery is draining. Just give me a second. My charger is in the next room. I'll bring it. Just a second. Yes, ma'am. I got your question very clearly. You say that there are a number of theories in economics, not only in economics, any domain for that matter. Even students who are working on literature, they have so field, but you have to choose a theory that fits into the ambit of the study. That is, first of all, application of theory refers to clear understanding of the principles. Now, what is your research topic? Now, does my theory fit into this research topic? Sometimes what research scholars do is they choose a theory at random and plonk it into the study. It is like heart transplantation. You don't apply theories like that in your study. You have to go through similar studies, look at how others have applied the theory. You have to see which theory will suit my study. It's not to pick a theory and infuse it in your work, but write a strong rationale. Ask yourself this question: what is the theory? What is the basic premise of the theory? What are the principles of the theory? How are those principles related to the research questions of my study? How does my research question have a clear sync with the theory? Shall I choose the theory or reject the theory? Shall I go for any other theory? So deciding on a theory itself will take a few months, because you should see what are the top theories in your field and then come to a conclusion which theory beautifully lends into your work. So that theory, you use it as a lens to study your work. So this is how you apply theories. I hope I have answered your question. But this
Yes,
is a
sir.
very exhaustive.
Yes, sir. You answered me, but my question is, the
Yeah.
theory is the one which is accepted by everyone, right, sir?
Yes, absolutely.
Then why should we include that theory in my research? Because we are going to find something new. It's
Yeah.
not.
Yes. And this is again a brilliant question. See, if you want to do something new, the very concept of what is originality has to be challenged, because there is a fundamental premise that there is nothing new, especially in social sciences. Now, how can you achieve newness? This is something which we have to answer. See, for example, novelty, you're asking what is the need for a theory because you're doing something new. Whenever you are doing something new, it is based on a old knowledge, which means you either debunk that particular theory or you debunk that principle without knowing the principle. If you say something, it could be already repeated by somebody and you may think it is new, but somebody would have said something in the theory. So only if you understand all theories, important theories in your field, you will know the principles. Only when you know the principles, you will understand what is the new principle you are applying. Because if you don't apply the theory or if you don't have a clear knowledge about the theory, you may not be aware that you are reinventing the wheel. So you need to take theories that are familiar, understand the theories, but you can achieve novelty by disagreeing with the theory, by adding your own premise, or by clubbing 2 or 3 theories, or by adding new contribution to the theory. But you can't say that I don't want to have a theory in my work. But theory is like a spine of your research, because it is based on certain principles, right? Without principle, something doesn't function. You may be a very creative researcher, but research community will not accept when you say that these are the principles that I have used. Because of these principles, I see something new. So this is how you do it. Are you convinced? If you're still not convinced, you can further.
Yes, sir. I got it, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions related to any aspect of your research? Any domain, literature, science, life sciences? Any domain?
You told about the number of citations in a research paper. Minimum should be 25 to 30. So how many citations, how many papers should we cite in case of writing a review paper?
Oh, actually, yes. A review paper, if you look at your domain, actually this question is a brilliant question, but the answer depends on the domain. For example, you are working on IoT. If you look at top Springer journals in IoT, and if you look at systematic reviews in Springer journals, you will see there will be at least 70 to 80 references. 70 to 80. And if you look at each paper, they'll be at least cited 1 or 2 times. So in terms of quality, the paper will be good, and in terms of quantity also, it will be more than 60. So ma'am, as far as I'm concerned, regardless of the domain, if you are attempting a systematic review paper, then you should definitely zero in on at least 50 papers. But actually, when you write a systematic review and publish it, in all foreign countries, this is a norm. A research scholar who registers in top universities in the world, top 10 universities or any European countries, first year, they should do an exhaustive data collection. Second year, they should write a review paper. First paper should not be a research paper. It should only be a review paper according to the university requirement. But in India here, we just jump into writing, research papers. But it is a culture in universities like Harvard, and I have extensively Googled on this. So, but to answer your question, I believe that in Springer, I have seen 70 to 80, especially journals related to IoT. Because I know a few scholars in my university who have IoT as their niche area.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Any other question? Probably literature domain, theory, or life sciences if you have, biology, any questions? So that is why I wanted to have an extensive Q&A session, because I wanted to cater to every scholar, regardless of the domain, regardless of the stage, regardless of your question. I'll be glad to answer. Any questions? Or if there are no questions, I leave it to the organizers. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me and asking me these questions.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, Joyce, and yes, yeah.
Sir, actually, there is a question in the inbox, I think so, from literature.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I'll
yeah.
see that. I'm sorry. I'll open the text box. Thank you, Joyce. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. Thank you for those questions. Sir, I am pursuing research on eco-critical study on the works of Jim Corbett and Ruskin Bond. Please let me know how to decide which theory will be applied and how. See, you have clearly stated that you are pursuing your research on eco-criticism, eco-critical study, which means your theory should definitely be only from that particular domain or the theory of eco-criticism, right? Because if you see in green literature, I think that's a popular theory. So definitely your theory will be on eco-criticism, eco-studies. If you see related theories, you may have a lot of, because currently if you look at the trend, there are also scientific theories on climate change. Even for climate change, social sciences researchers work on certain aspects of eco-studies, which means since you're working on eco-criticism, probably I think one contemporary and one Ruskin Bond long time back, but I wonder, I'm so glad that you are looking at the eco-critical perspective of Ruskin Bond, but I'm really a little apprehensive if Ruskin Bond opens himself to eco-critical perspective. I doubt that. You have to just check out with your research supervisor. But since it's an eco-critical study, definitely eco-criticism. Or if you go and research green literature, you will find theories on climate change, theories are there. But there is a lot of scope for interdisciplinary research when you do that. Okay, so eco-criticism will be the right theory for your study. Have I answered your question? Again, if you just Google theories related, yeah, thank you so much. Theories related to eco studies, theories related to climate change. Okay, niche areas in green literature. These are the key terms. Search terms like that. Niche areas in green literature, and then theories related to eco studies. But eco-criticism is one people commonly apply, but there could be a lot of annexure theories related to that. Maybe if you Google, you'll find it out. Thank you.
Sir, good evening, sir.
Good evening. Yeah.
Sir, I'm a student of international relations,
Okay.
and wanting to do research in Chinese foreign policy.
Okay.
Sir, there is much dialects and opinions in In that context, sir, well, while I am reading literatures, there are much opinions in that context. So, sir,
Okay.
how can I choose a good opinion which suits our literature review, sir?
Okay. Now, actually, I'll just give you a suggestion which I've given many times to different people. For example, you're working on, could you repeat your topic?
Sir,
Chinese?
Chinese foreign policy.
Chinese foreign policy. Okay, you have American embassy here. We have embassy British Council. Likewise, are you aware that there is a Chinese embassy somewhere here?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, if you look at, do you have access to policy documents?
No, sir. I'm not in that access. I am not having that access, sir.
Access. Okay, but now because yours is working on policy, you should, at least if you Google, you will find your Google key term should be on policy documents related to. So you will not find much of ideas from research papers. Okay, but you will find much of ideas only from policy documents, not necessarily Chinese policy documents, but it could be even policy documents from any other embassy. Or even if you go to Kannimara, I think they have a resource on government policy documents, old documents. Uh, Again, if you go to EBSCO host, if you go to American consulate, and even you need not have a membership, if you ask the reference librarian, they will log in and give you. And if you say that international public relations, they may not have a lot of resources on that, but they are the right people to approach, because EBSCO, EBSCO has a lot of materials related to foreign policies. Okay, so probably my only answer to your question is you should look for policy documents pertaining to international relations, not research papers. So policy documents in Google Scholar itself, you will get some policy documents, archives, or some research projects. If there are some projects, you will search projects. You can find. But however, if you want to have more specific, answer to this, perhaps you could text me, send me a mail. Then probably I'll just find out the embassy or where the resources are for your topic, and I'll respond. Give me a week's time. I'll respond to your question more specifically, because this is my generic observation. But I can even consult with an expert related to your topic and send you. But this is what I think you will find the right resources. However, I'll type in my mail ID. If you have questions, you can ask me the question. This is my personal ID. I'm not giving you my official one. Of course, I run my own researchers academy for researchers, for editing services, for thesis recalibration, or any consultancy you have. You are most welcome. So I leave my number and my thing here. Any queries you can ask me. Vijay PhD Research. 1 minute, I'll type my mail ID and my mobile number. Vijay PhD Research at gmail.com. Any queries, any services related to research, any consultancy, writing services, anything, you can just send a mail. Vijay PhD Research at gmail.com. Vijay PhD Research. This is my number, mobile number, 9940187775. You can send me a WhatsApp message.
Okay, sir.
In case you have any queries. Any other queries?
Sir, one thing I also want to ask you, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Sir, can I follow some scholar opinions like Sir C. Raja Mohan, which I see time to time in news articles? Can I refer them, sir, in my writings?
Of course, you can refer, because see, there is something called the grey literature. Saurabh, I wish to tell you that when you write research papers, grey literatures will fall under web searches and newspaper articles, blogs, and APA has given a special format for that. MLA has given us, see, every, whether it is APA or MLA or Harvard, every formatting guideline has guidelines on how to cite a newspaper article, how to cite a blog, especially for your research field. Definitely, you have to cite a lot of newspaper articles because that is where you find contemporary information. So, for international relations, definitely you need to cite a lot from the newspaper and from the grey literature also. See, this answer will not be suitable for a life science student, but for international relations, you should do that. You can, of course, do that, Saurabh.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Reena Vama, for your compliment. Thank you so much. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. If there are no questions, I just hand over the session to Dr. Frank.
Sir, one more question, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, nowadays we are using internets, and for the personal mails and for YouTubes, we are getting citation index. We are getting indexation scores, sir. So if I'm opening my personal blog and if I'm publishing my research in my personal blog and someone is citing, is it okay, sir?
See, Ma, actually, if you understand the concept of citation, see, when people cite your blogs, the concept of citation is, if you look at universities, every professor who is working there, Harvard University, let us take Harvard University for the example. If in future, if you want to be a professor of a top university, first thing they ask you in interview is what is your citation, not how many journal articles you have. So if you have your blog and somebody else cites it, blog citation is not counted. It's usually, it should either be a paper in Google Scholar, and even Google Scholar citation is not accepted, either Web of Science citation or Scopus citation. So it is absolutely okay to have a blog and propagate your research. You can say that my paper is available in academia, my paper is available in ResearchGate. This is a link for a paper I published. But blog articles, if somebody cites you, you don't get a citation index for that. Citation index are purely, you should understand the concept of citation index. It is purely based on Scopus citations or Web of Science citations. Google Scholar citations also accepted in the global context, except certain universities. So the number of citations you have shows the quality of your work. See, if you want a placement, if you go to search top universities in the world, 100 top universities, first university, if you see Harvard, if you type the name of any professor in Harvard, each professor will have at least 100 citations, or else they will not be working in Harvard or Cambridge. So in India, if somebody has a citation index of 5, I mean, they are highly reputable people. So that is what budding researchers should aim. The objective is not to write a research paper, but if you write in good journals, somebody else will cite your paper. So you need to have long-term plans for your future. Thank you so much for the question. But blog articles is, you may have visibility but not citation.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sir,
Can you give a tip?
Sir, can I ask only one last question, sir?
I think I just have a couple of questions. Maybe I'll take the last questions related to anything. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, yes, Saurabh.
Sir, as international relation is a very dynamic area. When I follow some steps to reconcile my idea by reading or by giving evidence through readings of articles, through reading opinions, etc. But sir, in IR, in a day, opinion changes by the leaders. So how can I tackle this dynamism in my research, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry, Saurabh. Actually, your voice is breaking. I'm not able to exactly catch what you're saying. Could you please repeat your question, Saurabh?
Sir, as international relation is a very dynamic area.
Dynamic area, okay?
When I follow some steps to reconcile my idea by giving evidence through readings of articles, through leader opinions, etc. But in a day, sir, opinion changes in IR. By some actions are really happening in the higher dynamism, and in a day leader changes their opinions, and the whole area and the whole subject, whole context changes. So, sir, as a research scholar, how can I tackle this dynamism in my research writing, sir?
Fascinating, fascinating. See, when you say that your area is dynamic and keeps changing, actually that throws a lot of challenges, and you see opinions change. But what you can do is, probably if your journey is 5 years of research, probably if you start your journey today, you may document a lot of work. But for journal articles, you will communicate today, you will get it published. Tomorrow, the opinion may change. It doesn't matter. You have got a valuable idea, is subject to dynamic, no idea for that matter is static. You have published it. So it is a worthy idea at that point of time. But when you're writing your PhD thesis, because the field is dynamic, you keep updating your ideas and you give right from the change the linear flow of pattern. And if there are new suggestions, new ideas, you may add those new ideas on the date of your thesis submission. Suppose you submit in 2022 and by 2024 it becomes obsolete, that is not your problem. You publish your research article in 2020, at the time it is new, in 2021 it becomes obsolete, that is not your problem. When you articulated your problem, your idea was very fresh, and that is what it matters. Your idea is very original, that is what it matters. So, Saurabh, not only your field, any field, for example, scientific field, if you take, it's evolving. It becomes, what is published yesterday becomes obsolete, especially in machine learning. As somebody is working on IoT, artificial intelligence. Yesterday's research is getting outdated today. So you need not worry about it. When you articulate, when you publish, it should be new. That is what matters, Saurabh. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you. Any other questions? Maybe I'll take only one more question because it's been too long, right? Maybe that's okay. If you have pertinent questions, I will answer, because I really appreciate your enthusiasm and your passion for asking me such pertinent questions. Okay, let me check the chat box. Yeah, Resham, thank you, Resham. Dr. Reena, thank you very much, ma'am. Okay, I've just no more questions, I believe. Yeah, thank you, everybody. I think a lot of people have texted me. Thank you for the overwhelming, support, and most importantly, very exciting Q&A session. Exciting Q&A session. Very pertinent. I'm so glad by the fag end of the day, you had so many questions to ask. Okay, sir, can you suggest to improve citation in a single sentence? In a single sentence, okay, try to publish systematic reviews. Your citations will go up. Thank you. I think I've answered in a single sentence. Yeah, systematic updation. If you want me to answer in a word, I will answer in 3 words. Attempt systematic reviews, or attempt meta-analytic reviews, or attempt scooping reviews. Please Google and see what each one means. You will understand in detail, because reviews may vary from field to field. So I have answered your question both in sentence and in words. Thank you so much. Okay. So, okay, what do you want me to put in chat box? Okay. Can't get you. All right. Try systematic reviews. This is one type of review that journals publish. Systematic review. There is another kind of review called as scooping. Scooping review is easy to write because it doesn't take much time. You can collect some 25 papers and write a review article, scooping review. And then meta-analytic, difficult of all the reviews. Meta-analytic review. Okay, all right. So you can even text a mail for any kind of thesis guidance or writing services, editing services. All right. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, thank you so much, Joyson. Shall I hand over the session to the organizers? Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for spending your valuable time with us, and thank you for the wonderful presentation, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you. May I leave Joyson? Dr. Joyson?
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for such a fine conference. And I'm so glad to have such passionate participants who had asked me pertinent questions and made my day. So it was highly interactive. It gave me an opportunity to refresh my knowledge as well. So it was a good learning opportunity for me as well. On that note, I'm taking leave. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Reena Verma. Thank you.